Think of the last argument you had. Really think about it. Now ask yourself honestly, in your memory of that argument, who came across better? Who had the stronger points? Who was more reasonable? It was you, wasn't it? It's always you. And that's not because you're right. It's because your brain will not allow you to remember it any other way. This isn't a personality flaw. It isn't arrogance. It isn't something therapy can fix. It is a structural feature of the human brain, and once you understand how it works, you will never look at your own thoughts the same way again. In 1954, a psychologist named Leon Festinger infiltrated a Doomsday cult. The group believed the world would end on December 21st. A great flood. Civilization wiped out. They had quit their jobs, sold their homes, said goodbye to family members they believed they would never see again. Festinger wasn't there to mock them. He was there to watch what happened on December 22nd. The flood didn't come. The world didn't end. And the cult did not dissolve. They became more convinced than ever. Within hours, the leader announced she had received a new message. The flood had been called off. Because of them, because their faith had been so strong, God had spared the entire planet. People who had just been proven catastrophically wrong became more certain they were right. Festinger called this cognitive dissonance, but the mechanism underneath it goes much deeper than a single experiment. Your brain has a department. It has no official name in neuroscience, but researchers sometimes call it the interpreter. It lives in the left hemisphere, and its entire job is to take everything that happens to you, every decision you make, every emotion you feel, every action you take, and construct a story where those things make sense, where you make sense. In the 1980s, neuroscientist Michael Gazzaniga ran a series of experiments on split-brain patients. These were people whose left and right hemispheres had been surgically disconnected to treat severe epilepsy. Gazzaniga could show an image to the right hemisphere only, and the left hemisphere, the speaking, reasoning side, would have no access to it. He showed one patient's right hemisphere the image of a snow scene. Simultaneously, he showed the left hemisphere the image of a chicken claw. Then he asked the patient to point to a related image from a set of cards. The right hand, controlled by the left hemisphere, pointed to a chicken. The left hand, controlled by the right hemisphere, pointed to a shovel. Then Gazzaniga asked the patient why he had pointed to both. The left hemisphere, which had only seen the chicken claw and had no idea why the left hand had chosen a shovel, didn't say, "I don't know." It made something up, instantly, confidently. "The chicken claw goes with the chicken," the patient said, "and you need a shovel to clean out the chicken shed." The left hemisphere had just invented a completely coherent explanation for a decision it had played no part in making, and it believed that explanation completely. Gazzaniga ran version after version of this experiment. The result was the same every time. The interpreter never said it didn't know. It always had a reason. It always had a story, and the story always made the person the author of their own actions. But here's what's strange. This isn't a malfunction. This is the system working exactly as designed. Your brain processes somewhere around 11 million bits of information every single second. You are consciously aware of approximately 40 of them. The rest is handled below the surface by systems you cannot access, making decisions before your conscious mind has even been informed there was a decision to make. In 2008, neuroscientist John Dylan Haynes at the Max Planck Institute scanned the brains of volunteers while they decided which hand to press a button with. He found that the outcome of their decision could be predicted from brain activity up to 10 seconds before the person was consciously aware they had made a choice. 10 seconds. The decision was already made. The feeling of choosing came after, and then the interpreter stepped in, constructed a story, told the person they had just decided, "You are not the author of your actions. You are the narrator who arrives after the fact and takes credit for a story already written." And this is where it gets personal, because the interpreter doesn't just explain your decisions, it protects your identity. Psychologists call this the self-serving bias. In study after study across dozens of countries and cultures, people consistently attribute their successes to their own intelligence, effort, and character. And they consistently attribute their failures to bad luck, other people, or circumstance. You got the job because you're talented. You didn't get the other job because the interview was unfair. You won the argument because you were right. You lost the argument because the other person wasn't listening. The interpreter is not trying to show you the truth. It is trying to protect the story, and the story has one non-negotiable rule. You are the reasonable one. You are the one who tried. You are the one who, if things had been slightly different, would have been fine. There is a term for the full architecture of this system. Psychologists call it the ego-protective brain, and its most unsettling feature is not that it distorts your perception of the present. It's that it rewrites the past. In 1978, psychologists Michael Ross and Fiore Saccoli asked married couples to estimate their own contribution to household tasks, both partners, each one privately. Then they added the numbers up. In couple after couple, the combined contributions added up to more than 100%, sometimes 140, sometimes more. Each person genuinely remembered doing more, not lying, not exaggerating, remembering. Your memory is not a recording. It is a document that gets edited every time you open it. And the editor has a bias. The editor works for you. Here is what makes this almost impossible to escape. The same mechanism that distorts your memories also distorts your ability to evaluate whether your memories are distorted. In 1999, psychologists David Dunning and Dunning-Kruger published a study that has become one of the most replicated findings in modern psychology. People who performed worst on tests of logic, grammar, and humor consistently rated their own performance as above average, not because they were dishonest, because they lacked the very skills needed to recognize their own incompetence. The interpreter was protecting them, convincing them they were fine, using the same flawed tools that had failed them in the first place to evaluate whether they had failed. The brain cannot fact-check itself with the same brain it is trying to fact-check. So here is where we actually are. You are walking around inside a story your brain wrote, keeps writing, and will not stop writing for as long as you are alive. In that story, you are not perfect. The interpreter is too sophisticated for that. It knows you won't believe a story where you never make mistakes, so it gives you flaws, small ones you can afford. It lets you be a little messy, a little late, a little disorganized. It just never lets you be the villain, never the one who is actually wrong, never the one who hurt someone and knew it, never the one who had the information and looked away. That role gets quietly assigned to someone else, every time. Leon Festinger watched a group of people absorb the destruction of everything they believed and come out the other side more certain than when they went in. He spent the rest of his career trying to understand why. His answer was simple. The alternative was worse. Admitting you were wrong doesn't just mean updating a fact. It means dismantling a story. And the story is not just something you believe. It is you. Every person you have ever met is the hero of a story they did not write and cannot read. Every conflict in human history has been two interpreters insisting their version is the real one. Every apology that never came was an interpreter working overtime. Your brain is not broken. It is doing exactly what it evolved to do. Keep you together, keep you moving, keep you certain enough to survive another day. But now you know the mechanism, and knowing it doesn't free you from it. That's the part nobody wants to hear. You will still remember the argument the way your brain needs you to remember it. You will still feel like the reasonable one. The interpreter will keep working. The only difference now is that somewhere underneath the story, you'll know it's a story. What you do with that is the only part that was ever actually up to you.